So, Gregory, why don't you elaborate a little bit on some of the things you wanted to talk about with the non-aggression principle?
Well, concerning that, the lex talionis that is mentioned, which is the law of proportionate retributive justice, that's key to understanding the non-aggression principle. And I don't elaborate on that in the article. So let me say a little bit more about that. In Genesis 9, verses 5 through 6, it says, "For your lifeblood I will require a reckoning. From every beast I will require it, and from man. From his fellow man I will require a reckoning for the life of man. Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. For God made man in his own image." So this is the first explicit statement or recorded institution of lex talionis or proportionate retribution. But moral and justicial and other norms are God-given at creation. So, given the fall, civil governance, in terms of administration of civil justice by responsive coercion, then becomes necessary. So in other words, it's not just due to the explicit statement, although that's where it's explicitly instituted. It's a necessity on account of the fall, because of the norms of morality and justice. To fulfill those norms because of sin, civil governance then becomes necessary. And Genesis 9 is not only God's authorization of what we might call capital punishment, but as we see elsewhere in Scripture, for example, with Abraham's rescue of Lot, when Lot was kidnapped and enslaved in Genesis 14, and laws concerning theft and murder having to do with property and bodily aggressions, as well as in Romans 13, this principle of proportionate retributive justice applies in all cases of crime, namely in cases of acts that initiate coercion against another's person or property, which is what we would call civil bad or evil or wrongdoing.
Right.
In Romans 13, we need to make the proper and necessary deductive inference that the wrongdoing to be punished is exclusively civil bad, that is crime, aggression against person and property, because what is authorized or prescribed is the use of the sword, that is coercion. And therefore, proportionality applies not only in the degree or extent of coercion, but in whether coercion is authorized at all. So acknowledging proportionality as a requirement for justice entails that it is a violation of the God-given norm of proportionality to use coercion against what is not itself prior initiation of coercion. In other words, the bad conduct or wrongdoing referred to in Romans 13 is inherently qualified by the specific character of the punishment prescribed. In other words, it's coercive punishment. And so that provides the qualification. Coercion can therefore not be used against non-coercive wrongdoing.